broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Keven Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV Boardwalk Empire season finale after show. A day that has one we've been dreading for some time. We'll talk about everything tonight. Next to me, I have the wonderful and talented
Bethany Jaber.
And across the table, I have.
Hello, guys. This is Sara Stretton.
And I'm Charlie Berens.
And I'm Keven Undergaro. And very sad to be bringing you this final broadcast for so many reasons. And I know we're going to jump into each and every topic as we always do. How about we get some general thoughts on this, on tonight's finale, just general thoughts on finale, then we'll go to topics, and then I think we'll do catches of the week, and maybe we'll just talk about what this show means and how it stacks up against other great shows. So I'll go around the table. Start with you, Bethany. General thoughts on this finale.
I enjoyed it, but I think I'm disappointed, and not because of the content of the show, but just because the show's over. So I'm trying to separate that feeling.
Okay.
But I don't know. I feel like we needed a few more episodes to really go out. That's just me.
All right.
I feel like talking about this for the next hour is going to help me get a better grasp on how I feel, because they sucked me in with the very beginning of the opening of this finale. It was slow. It was still. It had my mind just thinking, what's happening? What's going to happen? What point in time are they at? Like, I had so many questions, and it was so pretty. And from where it ended, there's just a pit in my stomach, because it didn't really end where I wanted it to. And it ended. So with the combination of those, I don't know if this sinking feeling is because I didn't enjoy how it wrapped up for me, or if it's, as you said, it just wrapped up. So I need to talk about it for the next hour. I need to relive the things I liked and disliked and figure out what that makes my opinion.
Fair enough. Charlie?
Yeah, I agree. I think just sobering, for the reasons you said, whether it's I didn't like how it ended or that it ended, or I liked how it ended but can't come to terms with that. It's just sobering, which is crazy because the show's about booze partially. But it's just...
just partially.
It's just... I'm blown away right now and just sort of in the...
If they were going for a shock factor, I think they got that. Because everyone's just like, hi, guys. It's very calm.
What do you think?
My thoughts are, it was a wonderful episode. I saw so many things too. It felt like even old cinema. Like what? Didn't you, Bethany, feel like an old drama was being done? Old dramatic talkie or a romantic old Hollywood film from the 30s. That's what it felt like, and that was beautiful. There was tons of symbolism, which we'll get to, and all that connected so well. I just was caught off guard with Nucky perishing, because I guess I didn't expect him to die, because in history he doesn't. Mm-hmm. And, Terrence Winter had warned us all along that he was not going to follow history, and I was the one saying, well, he has every step of the way. And in this case, he didn't. So that was the shock part of it for me. The disappointing part, and again, this comes from me as, and I'm just going to say it, guys, I'm an American film goer that just likes the classic American ending, set up an ending, and I go back to the other great show, my favorite show, Breaking Bad, ended where Walt did perish for all his sins, but he did a lot of good in the end, and Nucky did as well, but Walt went out on his own terms. That's what I liked, is he went out on his own terms, and Nucky didn't. and I feel very depressed and sad about that. And I remember saying just off the air last week that, you know, it's really tough as a showrunner, because if you don't do the finale right, it can almost taint an entire series. And I'm not saying that this will, but you think of all the underwhelming finales, and it's tarnishes the brand a little bit. And you know, I don't feel very good now about the series. I think if it ended in the way that I wanted to, I would be gushing right now and saying, oh my God, you know, what is the greatest? This or Breaking Bad's great for this, but this is great for that. Now I say Breaking Bad. But again, I'm going to tell you guys, not because of bad writing, not because of anything like that. It's a wonderful work of art. Just me as a fan, not as a writer or a critic, but as a fan, I didn't want to see Nucky go down in that way. And I think him coming back and shooting him in the face was to leave no doubt for us as an audience that he's dead.
It's not my favorite thing that what I'm saying right now about my favorite moments are the beginning or how it's set up or how I found them going to some of their classic shots.
Beautiful.
Like reminiscent of like their signature frames. And that's what I'm thinking about. I'm like, artistically they made
it was gorgeous. And how many times did we say during the thing, Sarah, oh my God, amazing shot. Amazing shot. Look at that shot.
Just beautiful shot after shot.
And moments
but
too.
It's the finale, and I shouldn't really be that invested in how beautiful it is. I should be more invested on the characters that I've just spent years with and what's happening to them. Like that's what should be coming out of my mouth right now.
No, you're right. It's so funny. We have spent years with these people.
No, I know. That's what, guys. That's what's hard. It's hard when you fall in love with these characters and they become a really big part of your life. It's hard.
Wow, that just.
I mean, because like you said, you had said how many years? The three of us, Charlie, and you know we've got you this year, but the three of us have been doing this.
Spent years watching.
I've watched it since day one, and it is.
It is that time, and we should be in here being like, "Oh my gosh, you guys, these are our friends. This is what just happened." And I'm like, "That was beautiful. That was a really beautifully filmed shot." I liked it, and
but there are also moments were beautiful. The moment between Eli and Nucky, the moments between Nucky and Jillian, the moments between Al Capone and his son, the moments with the beautiful, like I felt was an old film moment, truly, between Margaret and Nucky, and how long they stayed on that. You guys, back and forth, close up to close up to close up to close up, and nothing happening but music playing. I thought that was more than just cinematography. I thought that was just a great exchange between the actors, and in the writing, which we'll go over, every line meant so much.
Way more towards the end, in my opinion.
It became anticlimactic. You're right.
That scene was beautiful. It was put in way too early.
Okay, but you know what, Sarah? His choice was this was Terrence Winter's choice, and with Dick Van Patten who directed it. But I think it's more Terrence Winter. In TV, it's usually the showrunner that has the say. But his decision was, remember, I always go back to that second to last scene. If it's if the protagonist is at full power, then he's gonna perish. If he's on his knees, he will succeed. And so, we got the reason he gave you all those nice moments is because ultimately Nucky was going to perish. That's why. And again, American. I'm not if I grew up watching European films, which I actually do love, and I suggest to do them, and especially some of the European films in the 50s, 60s, and 70s are unbelievable. But me, that's not what I want. Maybe you're the same way, Sarah. I would have read that at the end, like you're saying.
I don't want to break into Nucky yet. It's like I have what my ideal ending would have been, and I'm not saying it needed to be all beautiful and perfect and everything in order with him on top. But it didn't need to be what it was. So, right. We're jumping ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't want to jump ahead. I'll just say generally, I think that for the actions Nucky took, the ending made a lot of sense, and I just agree with you. As a fan, I would have much rather seen it gone a different way. Right. But just
in terms of the literary craft, it made perfect sense. He sold his soul. We'll talk about what some of the imagery we saw in the past. He sold, and he ultimately perished because of it. And that's just kind of. That was the, I guess, overall message of Boardwalk, amongst the many messages. But let's get into it, guys. You want to? Okay. So just talking, even the title, Eldorado. So Sarah, tell me about a little bit about the story of Eldorado, which basically describes this episode and maybe the series.
For me, what I remember most about Eldorado is just kind of this legend that's been attached to it. It's like I have not refreshed all my history, so this is what I recognize this title. I remember this verse. It's basically the city of gold. That there was all these like Spanish conquistadors who went to try and find and went on these missions into like the Amazon and into the rainforest and all things to try and find it, and never did. It was just these it was supposed to be full of temples made of silver, made of gold. That had like the Golden King, and the truth was that it never actually existed, this city of gold. So everyone ended in disappointment. They're always searching for this luxury, these riches, and they all most of them died in search of it. So,
Wow. No, we were excited because you recognized it, of course, for the historical purposes, and I was like, "That's the Ghostbusters building in New York City." So, if you're curious what it looks like on the exterior, it is the Ghostbusters building in New York City.
But let's talk about it. It's that the search for gold, and they never quite get it, and nobody ever quite got.
In Eldorado, it never actually existed. It was something
it was a myth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That they built up. It did come from some sort of fact about one rich king, but the city of gold never existed.
Interesting. Well, and we see that.
Perfect setup.
Right, perfect setup. Okay, so speaking of someone who was after the gold that never existed, let's talk about Chicago and Capone. An amazing, sweet moment with his son, who we know is deaf. And, I guess I'm going to that. Maybe I'm jumping ahead because I'm not dealing with all the build-up to him. But for me, the scene was so beautiful with he said, "Dad," and he put his fists up. And we know that was a parallel scene to when he was a baby. And the father tried to get him to fight to deal with bullies. And, the kid just didn't want to because he wasn't the father. Tell me about that. And I'll tell you what was the most important takeaway from that for me. But
I thought it was beautiful. It also, Capone's storyline in tonight's episode was probably one of my favorites because of that scene. I don't think a character should be able to grow up in one episode, but that scene made him become like a man from. We've seen him be a leader, and in the midst of all this glory this season, but he's always kind of been very similar to when he was a kid. He was just loud, obnoxious, in your face, doing whatever he wanted, anytime. And in this episode, it really seemed like I could see everything underneath. Like he put the fists up, but he didn't put the fists up back. He went and he hugged him.
That's right.
He didn't, the kid was offering to help, and he said, "You couldn't help me," and you saw him trying to communicate and just calm down. Or they gave you the moment where he held up the mirror and looked at the reflection right before he got out of the car and before he put on that act.
Right.
And I felt like I got to see him why he was a boss. He wasn't that kid we met. He wasn't just this rambunctious, loud person. He really did learn. He cared about his family. They gave him heart. And I just thought it was done really well.
It's like we say when the mask fell off, so he has the scar and the this and the that and the suit and the bravado. And then, when he got with the son, to me, the line that said the most was, "I did this for you.
Yeah.
This can't be for nothing." And he was almost questioning this can't be for nothing, right? I mean, what was all this for? He's almost trying to justify it was for you, but it was the search for gold in Eldorado. It was wasn't there, know.
And did you buy that? When he said that to the son?
I buy that. Road to hell is paved with good intentions. I buy that. He, being an Italian guy, that's very part of the culture. Is I'm going to take care of my kids, and it becomes a rationalization to do as many bad things as you want.
Yeah.
And then now it's at the point where it's to try and justify.
That made me cranky. I was like, as he was saying that to his son, I kind of held it back because I probably would have talked back to the screen if you all weren't there. But I feel like that's a lie. Yes, well, I mean it's partly true, but
partly true, but then of course
you could have done something else.
I know, but but like Sarah said, he's a brute and a man-child.
Yeah.
He doesn't have, again, go to Breaking Bad. He doesn't have the wherewithal that Walt had to say that last episode. I did it for me.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. I enjoyed the power. I enjoyed. this is Capone. He's not as evolved.
Yeah, that would have been more
So he's saying, so anyway. But it also spoke to so many of these characters.
To that point, it would have been too much. I would have been like, you didn't.
Agreed, because it's not his character.
You can't see that much into yourself from this point. Your ego's too large for you really to break through all those layers.
Right. It's not true. It's not
true.
The
love for his son. It was enough for me to see him at least back down and be a little vulnerable with his son, and not be like, it's going to be fine. It's fine. He approached it with like, I'm going away. It was an honesty. It was that we don't get to see with every other character.
I agree. If he was going to have the full realization, which I really, really was hoping for, I mean, he wouldn't have like another 20 or 30 years to live. Like he would die, because once you peak, you're like, that's it.
It's also not true to Capone. I wouldn't want to see that. I don't think. I didn't know the guy personally, but my studies in history, it just doesn't seem true to the character. It's interesting that his son only died about 5 or 6 years ago. And I remember doing a lot of research. I said this like 4 seasons ago, and someone was like, name dropper.
No, I love this story. Tell the story. Tell your Capone story, please.
Well, it was this. I've told a couple of Capone stories because I was lucky enough. I was lucky enough to meet a couple of people who met him, but for some reason, a few years back, I got obsessed with where is the Capone family? Where's the son? What happened to these people?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I ended up tracking the son down.
Did you really?
And I called him. And and it and I got the answering machine. I left a message. I was at MTV at the time.
Yeah.
And it didn't have anything to do with my work. I think I was saying I was researching a script. I just wanted to talk to him, and he at that point he was in his mid to late 80s, I believe, living in Florida, and he passed away, like I said, just a few years back, but total anonymity. I mean, just probably still felt disgraced in a sense, by the family, because you can't find anything on them. They all went way under the radar.
Really?
Allegedly, from the history, the syndicate kind of took care of them, but then somewhere in the 50s, and syndicate was kind of like, enough.
Yeah.
Like, enough. Why are we giving them money? And doing more research on it, Capone gets so much credit because he was the loudest, he was the most flamboyant. But the truth of the matter is, it really was Lucky and Meyer, who are the fathers of the true fathers of organized crime. And we'll talk about when we get to those guys. So, but yeah, it was. I don't know why. I always was thinking, like, what would it have been like to be that son? And he only died a few years, like literally, like I think 5 or 10 years ago.
Did you ever talk to him though?
No. Like several calls, and he called me back, and it was one of those things, playing phone tag. And I think because I probably, was younger and not taking life as serious as I should have. I was like, I'll call him back, and then I don't know. Like I went to work on another TV show, and then I was on to the next like stupid idea. But I regret that, because I would have loved to, to see it. But it was that guy. It was that kid.
And what I thought, lastly on that scene, at least for me, is that he told the wife, no, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine.
Typical Italian. You leave the wife in the dark. It's just, honey, don't worry. Everything's fine. And it's not fine. He will get extreme dementia from, which they didn't show any, well, I guess they showed some signs of it, but he ends up getting syphilis. So he has syphilis at this point. Mm-hmm. You didn't really see much of it, but he's got syphilis, and it starts to affect his mind. And he really goes batty, and he goes to jail, and they send him to some of the worst prisons, and he's not respected in prison. He gets in a lot of fights in prison, and then by the time he gets out, which is sometime I think in the 40s, and again, please, I don't have a book in front of me, so I don't know,
It's 5, yeah.
5? No,
yeah.
I think he's in there longer. I think he's in there for about 12 years. But anyway, when he gets out,
somewhere in the ballpark,
he's writing letters to the government about communism, and he just basically he's gone. He's gone mentally. Yeah, he's out of it. And that's it for him. I mean, so this is it. That's, he goes away, he goes to, he gets busted, and it's over for him. Over for Little Caesar.
Yeah, no. I was thinking the 5 years is another mobster. That's what that was my thing.
So,
okay, let's
a great portrayal of him, and I thought I know the actor's wonderful, and I thought that was nice. I thought it was nice what they did with him. What else could you do? He was going to get busted, but they gave us a little bit of a sweet moment, and I think we keep going back to that same theme of we all started out on this path with good intentions. Everyone, by the way, which we've talked about this, it seems like everyone but the Commodore From the beginning, he was like, everybody, you see it tonight. Everyone sucks. It's just, you just go out and just get what you want, and that's it. I don't think there was ever, they gave us no indication that he was interested in anything grander.
Right.
Other than just become the king of the underworld, or like Neptune.
I would say we'll put Narcisse and Jip in that category too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Jip was just a sociopath.
Yeah.
But even Jip was like, my dad was poor, and and nobody respected him.
And he had all the very aggressive women in his family.
Yeah, he was like, which again speaks to his origin, but again there was some kind of pathos to it.
Yeah.
And we can only imagine what Narcisse went through being a black man. You know what I mean? Where he get hardened up, but it just seems like the Commodore is just like. And by the way, and I feel like Narcisse, he thinks he's raising the black culture and black community, even though he's not, but he feels like he is. Whereas again, the Commodore, no.
And he even
bang young girls, get money, become the power of the world, because the world just sucks, and you just need to crush people and control it.
Yeah.
And what he says, are we getting off topic?
No. Go ahead.
Even his little speech to Nucky on the porch right before Nucky delivers Jillian he's like, what I don't like about you is you are what did he say? I'm forgetting the words.
I know. I wrote all my notes are a mess, guys.
I know mine are
because
too.
I have this down.
But he says that you try hard enough because you get something you think you deserve.
You think you deserve it, yeah, right.
Because you think you work hard and therefore you deserve something.
Right.
And he's basically saying, it's one thing to talk to a spoiled brat and say, listen, you don't get something every time you do something good or you do an extra effort. You're not actually going to get compensated. He's not saying that. What he's saying is, you think that's how it goes? No, it's about just taking. You get for just taking and, not caring, not having kids.
And then to juxtapose that with the line that young Jillian said to him, Mabel says you try to do good, but you can't. Yeah. And so he's got all this stuff hitting him right away. And I think both of those, that's like the 1-2 punch, deliver the girl to the creepy old man.
Which again, like there's a ton to get to with that. Let's let's go over New York and let's talk about the origin of the crime family.
Yeah, how about that?
He sends Bugsy out to hit somebody, and we're all nervous it's going to be Eli or Nucky or whatever, and it turns out it's Narcisse, which I was grateful for.
Really happy.
But it was interesting to talk about. Did you guys write down any of the stuff Narcisse had said? He was saying some very poignant things as well.
He had a full quote going, and honestly, I was distracted because I was like, I don't think they're going to let him get through the quote. And then he kept talking, and I was like, oh, he's going to get through the quote. And then it was just like a very, very long speech.
Yeah,
that he did not get through.
It was about New coming in, right?
Yeah, yes. He was essentially foreshadowing what was already in place with the New York family, I think. And it was, New and old, and then it was essentially saying he's about to die.
The waves and growth or whatnot, but there was, I believe, an ocean reference in there as well.
That I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't remember that. But it was basically to say I'm, setting up the fact that he's gone and the rest are coming for story purposes. But
I mean, he always had so much to say. And he still wasn't ever going to be able to finish it.
And once again, we saw the guy come back and shoot him again on the way back, simply to say, you're done.
Right.
You have no cards left in your deck. You're finished. You've done enough.
Yeah. Interesting, not to bring Chalky back up, but he was the death that we still were kind of thinking maybe after that episode, but then when the episode was done and there was never mention, we were like, of course he died. But I think when you compare Narcisse's death to Chalky's death, just in kind of like the way they were, it was so graceful for Chalky, and for Narcisse it was so quick and
Excellent.
out.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
No, I think it's a really beautiful observation, because there was with Chalky there was surrender, and with Narcisse he was just crawling. He
kept fighting.
Fence hang.
Yeah.
Right. And I think for what he meant to the storyline, like Chalky had this very graceful ending, and Narcisse was just kind of that bastard that was just kind of there messing it up, and he got that kind of a death.
It's like when you try to, this is a terrible metaphor when you kill a bug and it just keeps running. And that's kind of what it looked like, huh? A little bit. This is terrible. This is so terrible. I'm going to get in trouble for saying that.
I feel like partly we again suffer from 8 episodes because for such a vile villain, you know, it was like, okay, we pull over, he has 2 lines and he gets shot.
Right.
You know, I think I would have liked to have seen more.
A full scene.
Maybe Chalky's death, him killing Chalky, ultimately leads to his own demise. You know, his hubris, something Chalky had done to make sure, you know, which again, I guess Chalky did enough to save his wife and his daughter and his baby mama, but I was grateful. I was so happy he got it, but it just kind of happened really fast.
I have a question. I'm so sorry. Just help me out here. I just remember, why did they kill Narcisse? Was he just not willing to go? He wasn't willing to go along?
He didn't want to be told how to rule in what he felt was already his area.
Right.
Okay.
They knew he was never going to play ball.
He was never going to play ball. Okay,
and that's also why I think it had to be in public. Because we, the whole time, I was on board for totally thinking they were talking about Nucky.
Yeah.
But like when you look back at why it was Narcisse, it makes sense. Because Nucky relinquished control.
Absolutely.
He doesn't need to be killed in public. Narcisse was grasping on, still had all of his followers. They needed to teach his community like that they were in power. So that's why that did have to be in public in front of everyone. That's why it was so brutal.
Any symbolism behind 2 shooters?
Not off the top
2
of
shooters,
my head.
3 shots, right? He had 3 shots twice.
There might have been 4
Do we
shots.
think?
It might have been a throwaway. I don't know.
If I were to pull anything out.
Okay. Talking about them building the syndicate, though, very interesting. There's going to be no more boss. We're going to be at a round table. We're going to vote on everything. You don't get made unless it goes to this table, this round table. Interesting. And why it's fascinating is because that stronghold was pretty much kept up till about the 80s. And Gotti.
Yeah,
you know, when Gotti went in and killed like his own boss or whatever, it just totally knocked over the apple cart. Plus, he went public and tried to become a celebrity. Just all the stuff that was against, not what Capone did, because Capone was into that, but Lucky and Meyer. All of their rules were about under the radar, and they had all these principles. And it's just very interesting that they had a great run. You know, from the time we see that, they have a good 50-year run before the feds and everyone breaks them.
Right.
So just interesting.
No, they do so much. They set up Vegas. I mean, a lot of the things we have today are because of the beginnings that we saw right there, which was really cool.
Is it okay to do like a little historical like future thing cast on that? Because I was watching a documentary the other day, and it was what I found really interesting, and it was about Hoover, that Meyer Lansky had pictures of Hoover in a dress, and so he had because he had blackmailed Hoover. I mean, that's why it goes so well for them for the next so many years.
All right. Well, you know what? I would believe that because not many people had anything on Hoover.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that they would be able to keep one step ahead because of that. Because nobody, not even presidents, had anything on him. And any presidents that tried to get rid of them, and they did, found themselves out of office or dead.
Yeah.
And that's why the day after Hoover dies, his whole staff, his fire, everybody's just that. The day after he dies, everybody's out. Everyone who knew him, everyone who was associated with him, everyone were out. Like finally, he's gone, and his files are gone too, and everyone could breathe. But yeah, just awful guy. Interesting. Again, 8 episodes. We didn't get to go back and see any more Hoover, which was something. And I don't know who knows? Maybe Terrence Winter has ideas on doing more with some of these characters. I don't know, with Lucky in them. It just. Again, we go to them and they celebrate. They have their dinner and that's it. I guess. I mean, was that satisfying to you guys?
No. I mean, I'm hoping for.
It was fine with me because at least I got to see some growth. They just visually, like, they were so tailored. Him being manicured when we open up on Lucky, just sitting there in his chair talking, reminiscing about what they used to be. He had a girl manicuring his hands.
Yeah, and he almost said the word Muppet, but he didn't. But they were babies. Yeah.
But what is that? Was that like my hands are not only clean of the past, but they're also manicured.
I just think it represents. It was just like change.
Decadence, change.
It's just like he's so tailored. Everything.
Not being a brute or thug anymore.
He's just gained control and is now at the point that he is looking back.
Yeah.
So I thought it was like that was interesting to see him so. He's confident and knows what he's doing at this point.
Let's go back to young Nucky and the wife, Mabel. And we see there's a miscarriage that very deeply affects him. But their conversation
was weird, man.
Weird, but poignant, but weird. I know, but I get it. But thoughts, everybody?
No, she was so is catatonic the right word?
She's in shock.
She's in shock, and I mean, there's she's like, I've washed up. There's nothing really more to do, and I didn't feel a whole lot of emotion from him in that scene. What did you think about that?
I was not really a fan of this scene.
Yeah,
I think that actually, I first want to say that I actually did. The actor who played young Nucky overall I really liked.
Fantastic, I thought.
For this episode, it was my weakest episode for him. Personally, just because there was multiple moments that stuck out where I was like, I feel like you're aware that this is the last episode, and I feel like you're trying to show me that you're affected.
Interesting.
That's what I was feeling.
Yeah.
It was just at moments a little too much, and maybe that was just because she did have such like a awkward, still kind of creepy air to her that his was really off-putting. So I didn't really love this scene.
I would have liked for them to have gone a little bit further down the road because the payoff felt really short to me. I think this is the only problem, like my problem area, I guess, if if there is one. I would have loved to seen the Mabel who does deliver the child, and then because he's so busy at work, like she's taking care of a stillborn for a week and he doesn't notice. Like I kind of wanted to
get that.
Yeah, to kind of round out Nucky a little bit. Like I don't know why that couldn't have happened a little bit this week. Maybe it was just too much information. Well, I don't know, but it felt just short of a payoff. I agree with you.
Yeah, it was rushed, and even it was just weird how Eli came in and pulled him away from that situation to go deal with his dad. It was
8 episodes.
I know, 8 episodes.
I think that's what we go to. I think it's like we got to wrap it up.
But it just felt so weird. Sorry.
It was two tough scenes, like very emotionally charged scenes. Like I felt very emotionally charged around the father thing, and it was just weird that he went right into that scene after being pulled away from Mabel.
Can I offer why? Yeah. I think.
Please.
And speaking to Eldorado and this myth, right? And everyone is in this. We said everyone is fighting for something that doesn't exist or is not. Everyone's just off kilter, but with good intentions. And so he loses the baby, and I feel like I should have been there. And she's like, "Well, how would I have contacted you? I don't know where you are anyway." And I think it hits him to say, where, yes, I want the son, and I'm doing everything for you. Same thing Capone is saying to his kids. Yes. I'm doing everything for you for this, okay? And maybe he is, or maybe he's not, or maybe it's just a rationalization, or maybe it's partly. But he's doing everything for that reason. And ironically, even though he's doing everything for that, he's not able to be there for her needs, and she loses the baby. Now, not that he could have saved the day, but I think in a guy in your head, it's like, I'm supposed to be doing this for you, and I'm not even here for you. But now let me tell you why. Then he goes to the dad, who's got a gun, who's beat up the mother, who's about to shoot his own son, and why. It's revealed why he's going to blow the son's head off. Why he's punched the mother in the face. Because I was going to be a grandfather, and you didn't even tell me. Well, here's the irony: you beat your wife up, you're gonna blow his head off, and there is no grandchild that you didn't. That we just got. So do you see where it's just all a mess, and everyone is fighting has good intentions, but no one's on the same page, and we're misfiring all across the board.
Yeah. And I think the other layer to this is to set up all these. He's just getting slapped in the face one after another, having these really tough situations. He's losing a child. His mother's getting beaten. He doesn't know what to do, and all this is leading up to why he's willing to extend the hand to Jillian.
And why he dies in the end.
And I don't know if this is where you're going, but that's where it's all building up to for this episode. It's all leading to the decision about Jillian. So everything about Nucky is now being about Jillian in our finale.
I agree.
Our finale is about Nucky and Jillian.
Logically,
right? Which I think was also, I'm sorry. Which I think, Sarah, is what he was telling us the show was all about to begin with. That moment he sold his soul. The minute he took her hand, he sold his soul for the gold. That was it. And then that was the road to Eldorado, and there was no turning back.
And I guess that's the point, and that's why literally it works, and that's why it's smart, and that's why he made a good show, and he obviously made what he wanted, I think. It's just hard because I've fallen in love with Nucky so much over the last 5 seasons that I'm not as concerned about Nucky's soul. I believe there is a lot of good in him. Right. So me seeing that, like, he feels guilty about Jillian, feels bad about Jillian, isn't shocking to me. Nucky, to me, has made bad decisions and did go down this path, but I still think he's a good person.
Totally agree. And if the rules you're setting forward in this universe is that if you sell your soul, things are going to go bad for you, well, then what's up with Lucky? And then they're all toasting, and the syndicate, and they've all done horrible things.
Yeah.
So,
but if this is Nucky's story about when he sold his whole soul, when it's happened, and let's go back and retrace that and show why he then gets his demise, then he did that. He did his story.
I know.
It was just like the story that was important to me wasn't really as much about his soul.
But
it could have been about his soul, but. To me, the real life Nucky goes on and lives a long life. He loses all his money, but he actually marries a younger woman, and he kind of does. He's a consultant. He does charity events. He actually lives with. I think the young wife is maybe from another country, and he lives with her family. So, in real life, he goes He goes in the end of his life. He goes back to. Maybe what this character wanted from the beginning. Yeah. And he never gets his money or his power back, but he's respecting the community. He kind of gives advice to people. Like that's at least what I that's the wiki version of the Nucky life, you know.
Logically, I absolutely agree with you why the Mabel and the father scene is there, but after seeing him go through so much just all of these years, it could have the stakes could have been higher. It could have been worse. Like as far as whatever Mabel and the father went through on this day. Do you know what I mean? Like they could have turned up the heat a little bit more because we've just seen him go through so much, and that's where I guess it didn't track for me.
It's hard also though because you have to reframe your reference because we have seen him go through all this stuff.
But he hasn't yet.
We've seen him lose the loves of his life. We've seen him get torn away. We've seen him lose power. But this is the building blocks that allowed him to then have those. Yeah. But adjusting that in your mind as you're watching it,
it's really hard for the viewer. It's so really hard. Was that hard for you?
I mean, I feel like there was such a short time, and so what they did. I mean, it was jarring to see how they did it, but I feel like they got the beats in that they needed to. Yeah, and I actually really liked that Nucky's acting. I know you didn't.
I thought young Nucky did a great job.
I thought
he had the mannerisms down.
It was so. I mean, I was blown away by it. But I mean, I see what you're saying too, Sarah. I just see it a different way.
Let's talk about Margaret and Kennedy.
Ooh,
and Kennedy in general. So Kennedy.
Let's talk about Margaret and selling of shares.
I'll tell you right now, on Reel's channel has a great 1 or 2 hours on Kennedy, on Joe Kennedy, or the scandals of the Kennedys, or something like that. And man, it's a very unsympathetic portrait of Joe Kennedy, but fascinating. This guy was really sharp. And he knew it's true when the stock market crashed, he made money, and he made money during the Depression. He was always one step ahead. He had tons of insider information. I mean, stuff he'd never get away with today. So anyway,
actually, I'm sure plenty of people get away with it today.
Yeah, true. I don't know. It's hard. I mean, but if you're high profile, it's hard. Yeah. And he was high profile. Yes. You know, you couldn't, as a politician, I'm saying, get away with it today. Okay. Look at Martha Stewart for like nothing, for peanuts. They had to, hang her away.
So,
but
Margaret.
But anyway, Margaret and Kennedy. it's great. We see her. He storms into her office because he's so smart. He's like, "Who's your husband?" Working with, and blah blah blah. Man, she handles him well.
Oh, she's a pro, yeah. And we see the strongest Margaret at this point, and
Nucky raised her well.
He did, and I think she even goes rogue on this a little bit. She takes her knowledge and really implements it, and we see a very, very strong character in Margaret, and she culminates everything, I think, with the quote. What was it? You want to be good, now imagine, or you want to do something, now imagine doing it in a dress.
Yeah, she said, imagine everything you want in the world, and then imagine wearing a dress.
Yeah.
Like that. Imagine everything you want in the world. I love that. I loved it. I am so thrilled with Margaret's payoff. I really struggled with her for the first couple seasons because her arc every episode was like, oh, I'm lost in the world. I don't know what to do. Oh, I'll do this, and it just kept repeating and repeating, and she feels really certain and level and
she was schooling him.
Yeah,
and it's like she was not lost.
I mean, imagine schooling Joe Kennedy, who was the closest thing to the Antichrist back then. In fact, they just
and teaching him something, which you probably
more name
went on to
dropping.
use.
I saw his grandniece today. His granddaughter.
I also just really liked how they built up the cell itself, because I was on Joe's side, where he was like, okay, go.
But she said,
it hits 9
key line, hasn't found the bottom yet. And when I heard that, I said, oh no, Nucky hasn't found the bottom yet. We haven't seen the bottom of his
life.
life.
I'm just talking about that scene. Yeah. Yes, they're trying
so that's why I heard that. I was like,
how they took it and they made us wait so long, and they went through every number, and it was going from like 9 3/4, where like Joe wanted to back out, down to 6, down to 5, down to whatever. It ends up at like 3 1/4. It took so long, and I was really like, go. I was convinced that they were gonna lose everything. I don't know why, because obviously she was very smart and held it together. But I just thought their timing on that had me at least going along.
And then when Joe kind of tries to seduce her, she's even great with that. Yeah, come in during office hours. Love to talk to you.
Yeah. I like that you pulled the foreshadowing out of that. Hadn't found the bottom yet.
Yeah, I was like, oh no. When I read that, I'm like, damn it. So many water references throughout this episode, and
starting in the water.
Yeah, which I'm sure when we read Mike's catches, he'll have a lot to say about that.
It was just so bleak. And
it was.
And
let's talk about when Nucky and Margaret get together at the hotel.
Eldorado. Yeah.
The Eldorado itself.
It's dark. The lights are off. He's talking about having just maybe a 1-bedroom, and we think they're going to get back together for a second. But my favorite, I guess, movement in this piece is that they're not important people, and they're just kind of almost discarded for like the new ones coming in. I think that was my favorite
moment. Back on.
Like, oh nope, lights on. Now we're in reality. Oh nope, these people want to be here. They're excited about the space.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, please.
No, it struck me as a very real moment too, like exactly what you're saying. And then right before they were dancing, the conversation about, when I was a bellboy, I got a nickel, and I thought it was the greatest thing in the world till I wanted a dime. And then
I thought the world was a swell place.
It was a swell place. Yeah, you wrote that one down, yeah. And that has been his mantra through his entire life. And again, it plays into the theme of Eldorado. And here they are, in this place he can buy with his $2 million. He's got if he wants it, but what's it for? And he says that he's changing his ways. He's done with it now. He doesn't.
We danced once, and they danced, and I thought it was great with Margaret because she said, "No, you offered. All you did was offer."
Yeah, and I accepted. I love that. That made me so happy. She's taking responsibility for who she is. Talk about like she's really grown. I just love the way they tracked her. She did
I kind of also felt like that was a parallel to Jillian and Nucky, where I think that we've seen Nucky just beat himself up over her, and it is that always like he put it out there, but she goes, and I think that even how they showed it at the end, I felt like she did have an awareness. She did kind of know everything she was getting into throughout her whole life.
Whoa, I don't know. Wait, are we talking about Jillian? Mm-hmm. No, I don't know. No.
Not as a kid, I don't
Not as a kid, no.
She was aware. No, she was aware. No, you're right. No, Sarah, you're right to a degree because she said she had Nucky down. You want to be good, you just don't know how. Mm-hmm. You know,
Yeah.
so which is true.
Yeah, I just think that, to me, there was a very real parallel between those two relationships, and like there
What do
was
you
shared
think?
responsibility in the end between like Jillian and for her actions and what she went through. It can't all be blamed on Nucky.
Yeah, I think I certainly think Jillian's a smart girl, and we can always see her being very cunning even when she's a young child. But I think there is that storyline of Nucky, you know, having everything stripped of him literally, and then being handed the gold sheriff's badge, saying if you bring the girl. You know, that's whatever Jillian's deal is. I think all that blame goes on Nucky, and I think he should sort of feel the weight there because.
Well, not once. Yeah, I'm saying, but over the course of Jillian's life, that he has taken responsibility for everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
You get her like in the asylum when he's talking about her. He's talking about how she did get out of the what it would be like the jail or death penalty by claiming to be crazy. Like she did get herself in this situation that she wants to now be out of. Like there is a sharedness where like throughout her life she made decisions.
Right.
Like she was the one who ran. She was the one.
Well, she was hardened. She ran.
Aware.
You know, she was a petty thief. I mean, you know, so she came from darker roots. He took all the blame
for her whole life, and it wasn't all.
Maybe
on
not.
I think
maybe not. We're gonna really go into detail with that with young Nucky, Jillian, and of course the ending. But let's talk about Eli's moment with Nucky, and just in production design, gold. I think it was gold medal. I saw some Benjamin Moore painter's cans.
Yeah.
And I saw in the gold dust. It was like some kind of powder that said gold dust. So it was interesting just speaking to the Eldorado thing.
This scene had two of my favorite shots. The setup shot where we didn't know who was inside and you see the silhouette through the window while Nucky's at the door.
Nice.
I thought was done really well.
I thought so too.
And then also we get the very classic shot where Nucky turns to leave. You have him on like the left-hand side of the screen real close right before he turns around with Eli in the back.
Yeah.
And those were some, like, it was a good scene, also acting-wise, moment-wise, but I thought it looked really
Best
well.
not to see each other anymore. And what is that, just because of legal reasons? Because Eli's wanted?
No, I honestly, I thought it was because
I've made such a mess of your life.
Like, I can't look at you. I mean, I feel like I've totally screwed up your life, and I'm unhappy when I look at you. And you're not going to get it together either, but I feel responsible for you. That's what I felt.
I think it's also just like there's things that eventually they have so much in their past that they're never really going to be able to live everything down.
Yeah, the last they
so
had
if they want to be able to move on, you kind of have to.
No,
you can't separate any of these things.
Right. Because the last they had a real conversation, he had a gun pointed to his head. Right. I mean, in last season, before they went their separate ways, that was the catalyst. And then he went home and beat up the guy. So they didn't. When Eli walked into the club, Nucky was like, "What's he doing here?" You know, that's where their relationship was at, which I think we kind of forgot this season.
Just they've never really had any good times together. It doesn't seem.
We've had a couple.
And No, I do believe that if Nucky wasn't in his life, I think Eli, I mean, his trajectory would be completely different.
Again, the road to gold.
Like it would have, you know. So I mean, it's about time that he gets out of his brother's life. Really, like let him have it.
Right.
Like,
but I think we at least left where Nucky leaves in the big giant bag of money, and he's like stunned when he sees it, and a razor and a thing. You know, in other words, go back to the man you were, which is a local sheriff with your family, and you don't know that the wife is not going to take you back. Go back, and so we got
and I think
a nice wrap up there, at least.
I think I can't speak for us as a group, but do you? I feel like June will take him back. Do you?
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Okay, great.
Oh, yeah.
So
With all that money? Come on.
No,
And
also,
a razor?
and for the kids. No, Irish. No. Tough Irish lady. She's going to take him back for the kids.
Because
And go ahead.
No, mine's off topic. So you go
Okay,
first.
well, I was saying maybe that's his Jesse Pinkman because you wanted to call him.
We have a lot of the Jesse Pinkman moves. Listen, Margaret is okay, and we'll talk about Jillian is in better shape now compared to for after his visit, but I just don't like how he didn't go out in his own terms. Walt went out in his own terms.
Yeah, we'll have to get into that.
When he was the swimming away was interesting. It almost like as soon as I saw him swimming, I said, "God, he's going to kill himself." That's what I thought.
Yeah, and that'd be a short.
I think he was considering it though. And
I just picture that in a pitch meeting. They're all sitting around like, okay, how is he going to die? And we're like, I like that one. I just like the image. Let's just keep that in there as like a mislead somewhere. That's my.
But he's telling Eli about it. That's right, because he's telling Eli about it in this scene. He's like, you get out until you want to get out where you have no more choices because you can't swim back, and that's the point you want to get to. He's talking about whether he knows it or not that he's in that position. The second he delivered Jillian to the Commodore, he was swam past where he couldn't get back in the
couldn't get back. He could never get back, and this whole series was probably him trying to get back, and he couldn't. So talking about
before we break into
Jillian,
because I think that's obviously gonna hold a big wrench, and we're kind of on the boardwalk at this point. The boardwalk scene with the genie woman.
Oh my God! Thank you. I keep thinking in the back. Maybe we got to talk about that.
I keep in the blue tent with the kind of pixely first television.
I love seeing history-wise. I love seeing that.
See, because I liked it because I was like, I was just really scared that something bad was going to happen to Nucky. But now knowing that nothing bad was going to happen to Nucky, I was like, what was that scene? Besides the mislead.
It was Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
Yes.
Was what they were playing.
Yes.
And I don't know. That's all I'm delivering.
I feel like the world was moving on without him.
Okay.
Prohibition was done.
It was just such a long scene.
And we're moving into TV, and he's not part of that world. I just think that's the future, and it's not with him. Okay. His future's in the stars, dead.
Oh, okay. That's a good image. I'll give it that then.
Do we need it? I don't know.
It was very long. I actually thought like its mostly purpose was to scare me, and I was like, okay,
probably.
Okay.
The only thing that I liked is I would like to see if that's what the first TV looked like, because I thought that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I bet,
if that's what the first TV looked like, that's pretty cool.
I wasn't even thinking the first. It was funny. You mentioned it while we were watching it. I was like, oh yeah, wow. Wasn't even thinking that. I wonder what happens when I watch these shows by myself.
That's why we have AfterBuzz.
That's why we have AfterBuzz.
That's why we have AfterBuzz. You guys, the shows that I don't host, I'm so addicted that every time, whether it's Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, all the ones that I do, I'm like, and Maria's like, what about this? My girlfriend's like that. I'm like, let me listen. I'll get back to it. And I just listen to the podcast, and I'm like, okay, here's what really happened. Because you need multiple heads to come together to figure it out. Nobody's that good to figure this stuff out.
It's a lot more fun that way.
Multiple heads put it together.
That's right.
Multiple heads take it apart, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know.
So Jillian, Nucky comes into the room, and you can see he's very guarded with her because she's so shady and so shifty that in the course of the series that you could see he's like, listen, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. No matter what you say, nothing's going to matter. Blah, 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 blah. He like spiels it out, and he said, you're going to have a nice room here. If you can get out, that's on you, and there'll be money in the bank in your name if you do get out, but you've also kind of won in the sense because you did kill and you got away with it. You talked to the juries and blah, blah, blah. And then after that, after he gets his spiel out, he's still looking at her like, geez, he's in a very curious way because he's like, that's not the Jillian I remember, the Black Widow.
It almost felt a little, and I'm afraid to say it, but a little comical to me because it was like, I'm not going to help you, but I got you a better room. I'm not going to help you,
that's
but
people.
But there's money in the account.
I know, but that's people. That's normal.
He was broken down without her saying anything.
It's like
right.
She did break him down. He got to the point of tears.
Yeah, exactly.
And all she did was play with she played with a ladybug.
Ladybug. Yeah. No, you're right.
Don't try to find me. You won't.
I agree with you.
Yes.
And then ladybugs. What'd she say? It's like what?
Aren't ladybugs good luck?
Yes.
If they land on you.
Yes, they are.
Ladybugs are good luck.
And their fortune,
Yeah.
I hope Mike included that.
I mean, what I concluded was like ladybugs are good luck.
And how do you know if it's a lady, right? Is that right?
Yes, that's what she said.
She said, how do you know if it's a lady?
Which is true, because
Could it be her when she was stealing stuff? They thought she was a boy.
Yeah, yes. And how do you know you're a lady? Because it could be a kid, a girl.
Right.
You know.
also
Right,
lady
right.
A lady
typically
and not a
implies
whore.
holding yourself together. But then on top of that, we get a ladybug, and then her obviously being after surgery.
The doctor trying to cut the evil out of her.
But the only way she was ever going to get out with this doctor was to have something cut out of her, because that's his.
And you see Nucky's reaction when he sees the kind of pain that she's in.
But if she has any hope for ever getting out, like, it was something like
She's
that.
gonna get out. She's gonna get out.
Yeah.
No, it's Jillian. She'll get out.
Talk about Nucky's reaction. What did you think when Nucky had
I
that
think he
reaction?
was horrified.
Yeah.
I think he came in with all his bravado. Nothing you say to me is going to make a difference. And I know you're, but I get it. We all have messed up things happen to us. And you came out okay. And you can have this, this, and this. And don't try to contact me. And, he didn't want to help her. And he felt like because she's always so shady and always one step ahead. And I'm not going to roll around with this broad because she's the. And I think when he saw, it was like, wait, this isn't the old Jillian acting. This is a damaged woman, and she's not putting on an act. And he was like, oh boy. And now we're cutting back and forth faster and faster to the moment where the sheriff the Commodore fires him and then says, Leander comes over and says, okay, here's the sheriff's badge. You just got to go and get this girl on board. And, that's what I think. Then it's like really hitting him, and how horrified he is what he's done. There's no way that money can fix this. Seeing that she's just a broken mess of a person. Not good. And by the way, back up a little bit, just the Commodore. Remember, he said to him, what's on the tombstone? It was a Vanderbilt or something like that.
It's someone in Nucky replies.
Cornelius Vanderbilt's tombstone. That's what he said.
And he said something in Latin.
He's like,
that was Nucky's answer.
And he's like, and it's what you leave behind, right? And it was like, the Commodore was like, no. He was like, this is just a bunch of sticks or whatever that could be washed away. He's like, you just, as he said, you make everyone pay. We do what we have the nerve for or die in the end. Just this awful view of the world. And it's, like I said, is this...
He had multiple sentences like that. Later, there was one where Nucky said he was what he needed to be. And the Commodore shot that down and was like, well, that's basically nothing. Like, if you're just focusing on what you need to be and not basically more of what you want to be, then what's the point? Like, you're not a worthwhile person.
Tons of symbolisms. I thought, you see all the tridents. To me, they look like scepters. And the Neptune is called the Lord of the Deep, which to me is the devil and hell. And all this is in the background.
And we've seen this.
And selling your soul for gold and and we see this poor young girl's soul. Nucky sells his soul. He sells her soul.
The conversation with young Jillian about the water, about sailing around the world. Doesn't everybody want to sail around the world?
Talking back to those books and her imagination. And you'll be able to because you'll be with this rich guy. We'll both be taken care of. Again, just that road to hell paved with good intentions. Man, and another rationalization.
Up to haunt him.
Right.
With
Tommy Dormandy.
Which you figured out very early, or seemed to.
You know what?
You just kept referencing that his mannerisms, his hairstyle, his everything looked like Jimmy.
It all looked like Jimmy, but I'd love to sit here and take credit. It's of our fans. Our fans on iTunes, our fans on YouTube have called it. And I'm sorry, guys, I wish I had in front of me your names. But weeks ago, they called it. And then a lot of them had done due diligence on IMDb and figured out a way that actor's name was the same. And they had all figured it out. And when I had heard that from them, and then I saw the way the kid was holding his chin in his mouth, once again, credit to either Fan Patton or Terrence Winter. and the actors for casting them and for coaching them to really play the younger the family versions of the descendants of these people or the younger versions. But in this case, it was a descendant, and I thought he was spot on. I could totally see Jimmy in it, and he tries to buy him, and it's the same thing. I'll just give you gold, and if someone finally says, you know what, rips up the gold, rips up the money, like, no, everything you've done has been about money, and you think money can fix everything, and it just can't. And my grandmother said you were bad, and
I am totally going to take credit that I did say that Joe Harper was going to be in The Shooter.
You did. That's
I did.
Very good.
I'm very
Nice.
excited. I'm very excited about that.
God, I say punk. I wish I'd. Now let me become the low-life fan. Like, I'd rather see him get the electric chair.
The bullet hole in his
Was that the same spot that Jimmy
had it?
Yeah,
I think because Jimmy had a
Yeah.
because it was the.
Can't remember.
I feel like it was the cheek.
I do. I know.
didn't go
You're
back
right.
and
I thought
see
about
it,
that. Yeah.
Well,
it makes sense.
They always say sins of the father get revisited on the children, and
But there's something different in this variation because I was afraid that Joe Harper, Tommy Darmody, there we go,
Darmody.
was going to go back into the cycle of crime and shoot him because of that. But no, he breaks it because he says
for family.
It's for his heart, for his family, for it's emotional. It's, I guess, maybe even karma. And so at least the trajectory of the crime families, he's not going in that. So he has broken the pattern in some sense.
Yes.
It's like not completely,
but his
a
life's
little bit.
over now. He's going to jail forever. I mean, it's.
He is, for a while, right? Not forever.
You kill Nucky, he's a public figure. I don't know. And by the way, and then the government
With the feds.
were about to, I don't know, bust him or probably question him.
Probably question him about Capone.
Probably about Capone. No, I was wondering if it was about his own.
I was going to say about
taxes.
Mayflower Grain Corp.
Yeah.
No, but I think it was probably Capone to help, put the nail in the coffin with Capone. Yeah, I just, again, just not very upsetting to me, not satisfying. It's not what I wanted. And, Jimmy, everyone was sad to see Jimmy go, but, the Jimmy and the Commodore, they were all working together to kill Nucky for whatever the reasons are. It's not like he was some saint, Jimmy. I get the selling of the soul with Jillian, but the rest is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. For the one thing them to part on history from to be Nucky's death.
I know, right, Sarah?
Like,
The one thing.
really?
I'm okay with it, guys. I don't know why.
Okay, all right.
I don't know why. What are you're smiling over there?
I hear you. I like that I like the narrative of if you sell your soul, then you're going to get it in the end. But I also think it was Nucky's inability to forgive himself that led him down that road too.
But that's actually, you know what? When we talk about breaking from traditional writing, in a sense, he didn't, because traditional American writing is you sell your soul and you pay. What's a little bit more is going the other way, to say you don't necessarily pay. So,
But he did do that simultaneously with Lucky, and Meyer.
I wonder how much they played with the timeline of his death in this, because in the last episode, he tells, he's Joe Harper at the time, how long do you think it lasts? And he goes, I guess, you don't know until it happens to you. I mean, maybe I like to think it's real quick. But I'm curious if maybe that dream sequence was because they were playing with the length of his death more, and then they ended up with this. Does that make sense?
Oh, so you're saying it's a long death.
Yes. Yes,
So,
maybe they.
And a painful death, and what he remembers as he's dying is what he's regretted his whole life.
Yeah, perhaps.
That's depressing.
I'm
Doesn't
curious.
it make you feel good?
Yeah.
I think in the other thought I have is the Commodore truly was the devil in this world, because I think if he was just another player, then we would have seen, the fact that he perished.
Well, yeah.
When he perished, would have been even a bigger deal. Him getting smacked by Jillian, remember, after he had the stroke, and him being killed. But it was such a small matter But I think in the overall grand scheme of things, because he says everything goes through me and from me. I mean, and of course Neptune's the god of the sea, and we're Atlantic City, we're on the ocean. You know, it's.
And we know that he's Neptune, not the little fake guy with the beard.
No,
obviously.
And I think the devil as well.
I have a question for you. Are there people like the Commodore in this world? Are there really? I know. Okay, I'm naive. I'm very but there are.
Yeah, unfortunately.
There really are.
Yeah.
Sarah's like, I don't know.
I haven't met any that I'm totally aware of.
Oh, really?
Okay.
But
Okay, so what lot you want to go to? Sony, Paramount? I'll take you to. No, actually, you know what? No. That's no. You know what? I've seen a lot of bad people. I'm older than you guys, and they've all had one or two things redeeming, whether it's been their children or there's always been something, but you have to dig to find it. Even the Commodore, the way he lit up with the kids, sing me a song. I was like, oh, but we also know, right? I mean, you see some of these figures in history, that you hear about. I mean, I just saw a really bad portrayal of Joe Kennedy. I told you in that Scandals thing, it was just scathing.
Yeah.
But, I would love to hear from all his children are gone except for one now, but it's, I'd love to hear from the grandchildren that knew him, I don't know, maybe.
He was all about family.
I knew I guess I knew a couple of guys back in the day, the big businessmen, that were pretty bad. That were pretty heinous.
No, I believe it.
That way, I mean,
I guess I've been lucky. But I mean, he's so.
Are you knocking on wood? That's
I am. I'm really okay. Well, I'm trying to
try the table leg.
There we go.
No, I think there's also a lot of people who've been lost along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That they do bad things, but then you go, oh my God, they were molested, or they were beat as kids, or they were, or they didn't have a family, or they did, It's always the hardest for me to find the one that had no reason to be like that. Yeah. The good mother and father, or the good, had blessed lives, and they were just heinous. That's the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have another question. When they do that shot dead on, what is that? What does that mean?
Oh.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
With
What
straight
is it?
on, close
what
up.
Is it?
We saw it many times.
Jillian and then the woman from the future, right?
That one was the one that really bothered me because it was back and forth straight on.
It was almost like he was looking directly into camera, but what does that translate? I was just creeped out. I don't know what it means.
Right at Nucky. Mm-hmm. Right?
It's in multiple characters. I recognize it most with the woman from the future and Nucky back and forth.
But I saw it with Jillian too.
And that was the one that stood out the most to me because it was back and forth. And I didn't really get the scene as I was watching it, besides that it was scaring me. So I don't really know what that was in that point.
Were they trying to get us to participate in it as the audience? We're the future? I don't know.
I just think listen. I think it was
walking away.
It's designed to make an impact.
Okay.
And it did.
Thank you.
It's to make you go. To pay attention, to say something poignant is happening right now.
Yeah.
That directing wise, that's what it's designed to do.
Okay.
God, guys, let's before
catches
we
of the
get
week?
to catches. Should we do? Yes, catches, and then we'll do overall thoughts on the series in general.
Because we can't do predictions.
All right, Smarties, what do you got there? Oh, it's the AfterBuzz TV Catch of the Week.
Okay, this is from AfterBuzz superfan Mike August. Mike, and thank you so much, bottom of my heart, for everything you've offered to this series. It's been so great, and how you're able to do this so quickly on the East Coast, late at night. Really grateful, and it's enriched AfterBuzz, and we so appreciate it. And other fans like Mike, please keep tuning into our other shows and doing the same, because at the end of the day, you guys are just like us. You just love these shows and want to talk about them and want to know more about them. So for the finale, this is per Mike August. Great episode. Title, as many have chased riches and happiness through the series only to fall short and die, like in the myth of Eldorado, the lost city of gold. Atlantic City was Eldorado. Nobody was allowed to be happy in this series, not even the Honorable Harrow, after finding love with Julia. Nucky also died chasing that holy grail.
Nice.
Great. The episode excluded the title sequence of the well-dressed Nucky walking on water, and it was genius, as the episode instead opened with a stripped Nucky swimming as a normal guy as he returns to his true self. Great, right?
Yeah, Mike.
Dr. Narcisse was quoting Ecclesiastes
Here we go.
1:5. when he was gunned down. It references how man is not satisfied with daily repetition and monotony and is always searching for more. Again, we saw that throughout the series with the characters. We have a reference to King Neptune. Neptune's trident can be symbolic of birth, life, and death. Very fitting for finale. Nucky said, "You want to sail around the world, Jillian," hence bringing us the final nautical reference in the series. Thank you, Mike August.
Awesome.
Really great catches there.
Yeah.
All right, guys, so we don't have predictions, but let's go around the table. Let's talk about any other thoughts you have on this series and how you think it ranks against some of the greatest TV dramas ever made. I'll start with you, Charlie.
I like it. I want to say as much as I like The Sopranos, as much as I like Breaking Bad, it's definitely up there. I don't have them ranked, but it's up there. And I think just the real human lessons you have in this like keep you thinking long after the show's over. And I think, in a week or in a year, maybe I'm just weird, but I'll be replaying some of the scenes like I do for these other shows. And I think how could this character have done this differently? How would that have impacted the show? I feel like I'll do that with this show, and the main thing is, why couldn't Nucky forgive himself? I feel like if he could have forgiven himself for totally messing up with Jillian, he could have changed the course of what he was going after. And so he could have found a way to reconcile and not try to just pay everyone off. He paid Margaret off right away, given her money, trying to find, hoping that he would always give people money. He gave Eli money. But if he could have just gone deeper and found out what was it at the root that was causing him to do this, I feel like he could have been a much different character. And I don't feel like he ever got the chance to do that. And the crazy form of atonement was, he didn't have it because it was cut short. So, great thing.
So he needed a good therapist, is what you're saying.
He needed to pay for a therapist.
No, but isn't that what therapy is? Like,
well,
you track the events in your life, and like you find out like what is that moment that made you go that way instead of that way. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, Tony Soprano had a therapist,
and it didn't work very out
he
for him.
body
You're
slammed
right.
her in one episode. So,
yeah.
Those are my thoughts.
I think
Bethany, your thoughts?
For me, this is the best historical fiction on TV. Absolutely, 100%, and that's all I can say. That's it. I mean,
That's
it
great.
really is.
You're right.
It is the best historical fiction because they remain true to the historical figures as far as like their actions and their history and their lineage, and then they bring in these really great fictional characters to kind of like play around with them. And
they also they empowered race, the characters of color, the female characters.
Absolutely.
Throughout the series, and I think next to John Adams, which wasn't a series, it was a mini-series.
Yeah.
Really great, and that's HBO. That's what I love about HBO.
They're great.
Really, really great with history. Sarah?
I think all I can do is really just thank the show for. My favorite parts are just that I can go home and just, even after we've talked about it for an hour, I can still think about it for another hour. And I was trying to go back this weekend, and I was just trying to remember like my favorite characters and my favorite scenes, and it's so hard to narrow it down because there's been so many phenomenal scenes and moments and changes and twists, and I was always caught off guard. And so I just think it was a really well written show and a very well acted show, and I think that we can all say it was cut too short, and I can't take that back, and it is what it is. But so it's great, and I know that I can watch it again, and I spent so many hours with it that I'm going to miss it.
For me, I've never seen The Wire. People tell me The Wire is the greatest, or it's the one thing everyone always like. When you say Breaking Bad is the greatest, I'll say The Wire. For me, it's Breaking Bad is my favorite. And then I would say this. Then I would say Sopranos is very close. Sopranos is a little closer now because of this ending. Because, again, when I think Breaking Bad, I don't just think of the whole journey. I just think of that finale, and all those great moments. Goodbye, Lydia. You know, when he just and that slight nod to Jesse, and Pinkman screeches out, and he has his nice little Walt has his nice romantic walk out to his instruments, and like, you know what, like, I did it, and you know, cancer didn't kill me. I got to live my dream. I got to, you know, my genius went. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but it went into something else. And he dies, and there's that great master shot, and I hang on to that, and I'm always on YouTube watching that ending, always. And I'm not going to be doing that with this because of what we all talked about for this last hour. However, I'm glad you said that, Bethany, about historical drama, because the production design, the costumes, the acting, the writing, it was an amazing work of art. It was beautiful. I hope it inspires other filmmakers to do it. I mean, I feel like I'm seeing it a lot with The Nick. I'm seeing a lot of these period dramas, historical dramas. I still don't see the production design being as strong. I still don't see the money being spent like it was on this show. But I hope we can move in that direction. I hope that no one sees this as a failure, so they don't spend the money. So I'm hoping, just as a fan, because I want to go through this again with something else. And it also, but anyway, without saying, repeating some of my own stuff, I congratulate Terrence Winter. I think he's up. It's him and Gilligan, to me, are the greatest right now showrunners. I'm looking forward to seeing what's next for him. And Tim Van Patten is a big unsung hero, because he's more behind the scenes, and TV directors don't get the respect as maybe like film directors. But again, with the business changing, I feel like his print was on this more than Scorsese or anyone else. And I'm sad. I'm really sad, and I thank you guys, and I'm gonna miss you guys getting together with you. God, this is like, you know, we look forward to this. Like we could watch together, and I don't know, unless we find another show. Yeah, this could be it for us. So Charlie, I'll say for the last time, where do we find you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram at Charlie Berens.
Sarah.
You can find me at Anatomy of a Movie or on Schmoes Knows podcasts, or wherever, but not on Twitter.
Not on Twitter. I know that. Charlie, do you do any other AfterBuzz shows now?
This was the only one I was doing right now. I do Extant, but that's not for another.
Do you watch The Sons of Anarchy?
I don't.
Oh, you gotta get into that.
I should get it.
Yeah, get it.
Been told
that's
many
like
times.
That's Boardwalk Empire light.
Okay.
It's more the saccharine version. You know what I mean? It's more. It's not quite as serious. It's like a guy soap opera, but I mean,
that sounds good. I do need a new series now that this is over.
My series don't come out till spring.
All right, Bethany, where do we find you, honey?
On Instagram at Bethany with an IE.
And I am at Undergaro, and you guys have all been great sending me tweets and emails, and I appreciate it all. I do Bar Rescue on Monday nights, and I do Sons of Anarchy, which is also going to be winding down. That's it. All right, guys, everybody.
Thank you.
Boardwalk fans from all over the world who tuned into that show and ours, thank you so much, and we feel your pain.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later for the last time.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.